don't know how many are gonna. I don't know how many are gonna circle back and join us or not. I don't know why the video went out. We haven't had issues with that for a while, but it went out right at the same time as we were receiving news that Sonny, um, from the information we're getting, Sonny has passed away. That's so unexpected because I've been in communication with her recently. She and Craig, I've been in communication with them recently about the passing of their dog, Vito. Sonny and Craig out in Pennsylvania had this beautiful big, I think it was a Mastiff, and he recently passed away. Vito, Sonny and Craig's uh, dog. And this is, in fact, shocking news. Uh, Shocking news that it sounds like Sonny took a turn for the worse. And she's been so involved with live streams. She's been so involved with other aspects of cow country in recent weeks that apparently things took a turn unexpectedly. And our dear, dear, dear friend Sonny, who's been a part of us for a long time, apparently took a turn for the worse. And from what Paula shared, she passed away. I don't even know how you continue after that, but I guess we have to, don't we? I'll get the rest of this packing material off as hopefully we can wrap up this second video follow-up of this unpacking and get a closer look at Ronnie's machine, and then we'll end this because I'm just beside myself right now as to where do you go? How do you, wow. Oh my Lord. And those of you that are really, really new, oh boy, I got some more feedback for Ronnie. Ugh. And this can happen very easily. Just if you're packing a machine and you're using packing tape like this, don't let it touch. Don't let it touch the machine paint, patina. Especially don't allow it to go over the decaling right here. Decaling is protected by clear coat, but if for some reason the clear coating has been compromised, as I peel this away, it can remove part of that decaling right there. I'm going to do it really, really slowly. So yeah, don't allow packing tape to touch the paint patina, and certainly don't let it touch any of the decal portions. That'll mess things up real quick. And that can happen again very easily as you're rushing to get the machine packed up. Yeah, so just be real careful. Wow. Yeah, thanks to, it looks like some of our folks, some of our friends, some of our cow country family circle back after the video went out. I don't know why it's doing that. I thought it was because of an update that I had not done on the camera, and then I did the update. I did the software. These fancy Razor cameras have actually software built into them. I did the Razor upgrade. Then I thought it had been a glitch within YouTube, and I thought YouTube had resolved it because the last couple of live streams, no glitch, no problems, nothing. Then it kind of goes back to my 5G network. Is my 5G network cutting out during live streams for some reason? So whatever the reason, we'll persevere through it and hope that if it happens, it only happens very infrequently. Wow. Now we're getting a clearer view of this 201-2. Now we're getting a real clear view of it. Looks like maybe this is the power cord that is just kind of randomly wrapped into the packing material. See if I can get this out carefully. And again, the recommended, we talk a lot about amperage tolerance. We talk about amperage tolerance with relation to the sewing machine motors and the foot controllers, how they work cooperatively together, and how the foot controller always needs to be rated higher than the motor. Yep, that's our power cord. This is, let's see, yep, it's actually marked Singer, because they do these as remakes as well. And you can look at this one as an original Singer one. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that in the camera shot or not. And these original Singer cords would have been wired most likely with 16 gauge wiring. You can see it's a real girthy, robust type wiring on this cord, this original Singer cord. 16 gauge gives protection up to about 3 amps. It can carry a load of 3 amps without any issue. Whereas most of the cords these days are going to be wired with 18 gauge, which is still going to give you more than enough protection, but it's not going to be quite as robust as 16 gauge. So the original manufacturers would have gone a little bit higher in the wiring amperage tolerance rating than we do today, which is a good thing. Gives you a little bit bigger gateway, a little bit more protection. All right, let me see what I can do with this now. I'm going to bend these sides down a little bit, see if I can get this machine out of there. This is really clever, isn't it? This is on either side of the machine, adjacent to the bed, with a very hardcore, heavy padding material that Ronnie would have used on either end of the machine like this, cradled against the bed. Very, very smart move. And you can see the imprint actually here of the pedestal foot closest to the faceplate area that actually made an indentation in there. But this is a great way to add extra padding and support to the machine as it's traveling. Very, very smart move on Ronnie's part. Very smart move. Oh, Emma's in this as well. Hello to Emma. And Emma's at work today. So she's actually joining us as she's able to. She works as a pharmacist down in Florida. And there might be others in the live stream as well that are joining us from work as they're able to kind of, sneak in a little bit and get involved or observe something or listen to something or whatever. And if you're that dedicated that you're willing to join us when you're at work, as long as it doesn't compromise, and I know that Emma would not allow it to compromise her work as a pharmacist. Wow, what dedication. Pretty amazing, isn't it? That's the way our family is. All right, let me get this out of the way. Get all this packing material. And again, I beat up the boxes a little bit, but the thoughtful packing that Ronnie did, especially those I'll call them bookends, the bookends that she did with that extra padding that would have been tucked underneath the machine adjacent to the pedestal feet. Really a lot of thoughtful protection that Ronnie tried to build into her packing job. The only opportunity was the cardboard boxes could have been much better, but everything else really, really well done. Really, really well done. I'll throw this to the side as well. And I talked a lot about the motor. Talked a lot about the motor on this machine. And I don't know what the rating of this cording is right here. This is not original. This cord right here is not original to the machine. You can see that straight away because it's the coloration of the cording is wrong. It would be closer to a black. Singer did make cords like this that were brown, but you can see the difference in the coloring right here in the shot. And the problem with cording or the cord is there is cording that's going to be in the 16 to 18 gauge class, but there's also, they call it lamp cord. If you go to Home Depot, if you go to Menards, some of the other big box stores, in their electrical department, they're going to have a number of different cord type wiring that's available. And some of it's going to be in the class of, say, lighting cord that you'll use to rewire a lamp. And most lamps are going to have, somewhere, a lot of lamps now are going to be using LED, so it's even less. But in traditional lamps, you'll have bulbs anywhere from, say, 40 watt up to 200 watt. Who knows? So the cording will vary in those lamps depending on how they were made and how they were wired originally. A lot of the lamp cord is not going to be in that 16 to 18 gauge class. And with wiring, if you didn't know it, most everyone in the live stream is going to have some knowledge of wiring, but they may not understand as far as how the wiring is done as far as gauge. The lower the gauge number, the more load that wiring is able to carry. So 16 gauge wiring is going to be able to carry a heavier load than 18 gauge. And as you get higher and higher and up in the numbers, that's a lesser load that gauge will be able to carry. So as you get into like 20, 24, and so on, it's going to be a lot lighter gauge, like the lamp wiring. And it's possible, I don't know for sure, it's possible that whoever rewired this foot controller into this machine, this 201-2, went to a local retailer like a Menards or a Home Depot, and they said, hey, I need to wire an appliance. I need to wire whatever. And sometimes those clerks won't ask probing questions. They won't ask, well, what are you wiring? They'll just right away go to this default of this lamp cord type wiring, which it's not the ideal cord to put with a sewing machine like this, because motors that are rated at 0.5 or 0.6 amps, when they peak, will push that amperage much higher than even the motor rating. They'll sometimes go up to 1 amp as that floodgate of electricity is going into that motor. So just something to point out, wiring has its unique gauge ratings. The lower the gauge number, the more protection it will afford. The higher the gauge rating, the less protection and the less of a gateway of electricity will allow that motor to receive. So if you go with a lamp style cord, it's not going to allow a big enough floodgate to give that potted motor all of the energy influx that it needs to reach its peak potential. So it might actually underperform, even if the motor was optimized. If you go with the wrong cord and it doesn't have a big enough gateway, it doesn't have that gauge factor that allows a bigger gateway to that motor, it's going to underperform. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. It's important you understand whether it's the wiring or the motor compatibility with the foot controller, it all can affect the peak performance of that machine, even if it's otherwise optimized, even if it's otherwise optimized. And in extreme cases, if the cord is drastically underrated in relation to what load it's trying to support, it can become a fire hazard. It can overheat, kind of like I showed you recently with that foot controller that got up to 150 plus degrees. on that machine that was on the workbench. I showed you pictures of that on Facebook with my heat gun infrared sensor thing. So yeah, just think about it thoughtfully as you're looking at rewiring sewing machines, and take into account the gauge rating of the wiring that you're looking to incorporate into that machine, so that you're able to enjoy the full benefits of what that machine can do, and also not risk putting yourself or your home or the sewing machine at risk as well. So I'm just curious, real quick, and I'm not going to fire this up because this machine right now is unproven. Plus, I've got a little bit of a weird thing happening right over here. If you look at this, I got kind of a weird thing happening on this wrap right here. So I'm going to forego firing this machine up because of the wiring concerns I'm seeing. And but I will open up the back of this cover so we can see. This is really odd. This is odd how this is wired. It's actually coming off the motor, I think. Yeah, so they use part of this wiring on the motor itself also. You can kind of see that underneath there. Coming in through there. So yeah, we got some wiring concerns on this machine, but let's see what kind of motor we have. If it's going to be a 0.5 or a 0.6, I'm just curious. Just curious. And there's a screw on either side that you have to loosen in order to pull this cap off of the potted motor. Don't take the screw all the way out because they're very small. Just loosen it enough that you can wiggle it past. Got an awkward angle here. Let me turn that a little bit so I can see it more easily. Just see if you can wiggle it by, and that way you don't have to take the screw all the way out. There we go. Now I can see where that screw is. Yeah, I've got all these LED lights in here, and still there's shadow points sometimes that don't allow me to see what I need to see. Almost seems like I need even more lighting in here. There we go. And this camera actually does better than my eyes can do in low light. But for me, in trying to see things sometimes, I wish I had the abilities that this camera does to see stuff. So I loosen the screw here, I loosen the screw over here, and now we should just be able to wiggle this cap. Sometimes it sticks a little bit because of the heat that builds up in here. It kind of fuses it a little bit. So just rock it very gently back and forth, and then just kind of pull it free. And then it kind of exposes the initial guts of the motor. See how that turns. And I'm smelling, you can't smell it through the camera, but I'm smelling kind of a hotness in there where it's been running, and it's got kind of a strong odor to it. So can you see in the shot what size motor this has? I said it's going to be a 0.5 or a 0.6. What is your guess as far as, you got a 50-50 chance? You think it's going to be the bigger of the two motors, a 0.6 or a 0.5? And maybe you can see it in the shot right now. Maybe you can already see what size motor it is. And Al Coss is just jumping on it going, hey, 0.5. Well, without being real dramatic as I usually try to be, give you a shot of this, you can read that yourself. So hopefully you can see that right there. It's going to show you 0.5 amps. And again, Singer put the same motor either 0.5 or 0.6 on all of their 1591s and also on their 201-2s. So if anyone in a Facebook group or a Pinterest group or in any of those types of groups tries to make an argument that the 201-2 is more powerful than the 1591, it certainly is not a motor factor, because both of those machines typically are going to have the 0.5 or the 0.6 amp motors. Now, the predecessor to the 201 class series, there was another machine that Singer rolled out that would have had a bigger motor and could only be used in a table or in an appropriate base because the bottom is kind of a boat beveled style. Does anyone know what machine that is? It would have been the predecessor coming out almost 15 years before the 1591 in 1932. This particular machine I'm talking about would have been introduced in the 1920s. And it would have also had a potted style motor. I've shown it on this channel before. It would have had a potted style motor. Again, it would have come out about almost 15 years before this 201-2, right around 1920. And it would have had a bigger motor than either one of these machines would have had. It would have had a bigger motor than either one of these machines. Does anyone know what that model is? What that model is that I'm talking about? No, that's a great guess. Not a 15.5. Not a 1595. That's not the machine I'm thinking about. And I'll show you real quick. That within the class, it gets to be a little bit complicated. I'll just share that with you real quick. Within the class 15 family of Singer, there were so many variations. There were so many variants. And I've read that long list off to you before, that it gets to be almost confusing as far as which number is which in relation to that class 15 family. And I'm actually looking at my list just to make sure that I get it right. And interestingly, there was actually not a 15-95. I had to double check my list. It went from 15-90. Just going to check again. It went from 15-90 to 15-91, and then it jumps to 15-96. So there actually was not a Singer 15-95, but that's a great guess. Just making sure my glasses are working. Yeah, Candido had put down 1595, but actually on the summary that I have, there was no 1595. It went from 1591 to 1596. Some reason they decided not to use 15-95. And those would have been, apart from the 1591, any of the other variants within the class 15 family would have been belt-driven or treadle-driven type machines, or a couple of rare instances, hand crank. The 1591 would have been one of the few that was potted motor driven. Any rate, getting back on track, the machine that I was talking about that would have been an earlier version of this and would have had a noticeably bigger motor, actually rated at 0.8 amps, would have been the 101, the class 101. And if you Google that, or if you go into the YouTube channel for Cow Country, you'll see that I presented a couple of 101s on this channel. I believe one from New York, and then also one from Washington State. And those 101s, they can't freestand like this 201-2 that has pedestal feet. They have to go into, the 101s have to go into a base or into a table because they don't sit level. They don't sit level. So yeah, the 101 is the one, and I've got one in the workshop, but I won't, unless you say you really want to see it, I won't drag it out to bring it in front of the camera right now. Yeah, Emma, I hadn't looked at the live chat. Emma typed in 101. Yep, that's correct. Yep, the Spartan, the 192K is also belt driven. That's absolutely correct. The Spartan, the 192K, they're one and the same. That's also a belt driven machine. And that Spartan, if you're saying, hey, doesn't the Spartan have a zero point 0.8 amp motor, just like the Singer 101 that was the predecessor to the Class 201? The answer is yes. The Spartan is equipped with a zero point 0.8 amp motor, so it's going to have a larger motor than either 1591 or the 201-2. The only difference is it's going to be belt driven. And when you have a belt driven machine, it's going to transfer that power from the output pulley of the motor to the belt and then eventually up to the balance wheel. And you lose power in that transfer. Whereas when you have a direct drive gear driven machine like the 1591 or like the 201-2 that we're looking at right now, that transfer of power is by gear directly from the motor output directly to the balance wheel that's interlaced. And then you have little or no loss of power. You have direct transfer of power to the balance wheel that drives it down the main shaft to the needle bar and then eventually down to the material. So you tend to preserve a lot more power output of the motor when you have a gear to gear type transfer instead of with a belt transfer. The middle ground of those two, and you might already know this because, like I say all the time, y'all are very, very smart. The middle ground between a gear to gear transfer and a belt transfer is something you'll see on a lot of the rotary machines, and that is you'll have a friction pulley that is on the back of the motor that rotates right into the balance wheel, and that friction pulley makes direct contact with the balance wheel and pushes that power down the main shaft. It's not quite as efficient and as effective as the gear transfer, but it's pretty doggone close. And you'll see again a lot of those rotary machines. The free Westinghouse machines will have that sometimes. The white machines, the domestic machines, will actually have that friction pulley. And in that motor design, it actually has a spring that you can pull away the friction pulley from the balance wheel, but otherwise that spring will actually push that friction pulley into the balance wheel and give you a lot better delivery, a lot more efficient delivery of the power down the main shaft than a belt traditionally will. So, yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways to bring locomotion to the sewing machine, isn't there? And the setup you have, whether it's the wiring like we talked about, or the foot controller, or the motor design, it all plays into the factor of how much that machine can deliver down at the needle, doesn't it? Along with all the mitigating things of how that machine is optimized. So yeah, kind of cool. Well, again, I'm utterly speechless as far as the news that that Paula brought to our attention in the last live stream before the camera cut out. It appears that Sunny has lost her battle with cancer, and it hits me hard. I think it hits us all hard because she's such a ray of sunshine. When we would interact with her, if you want to get a glimpse, and if you're brand new to cow country and you're going, I'm trying to be Scott, I want to be empathetic, I want to be sensitive, I want to be kind, but I'm not getting it. I don't understand who this Sunny person is. Maybe you're not in a position where you haven't been part of the family long enough to appreciate the beauty of the spirit of Sunny and who she is. I'm not even going to say who she was. I'm going to say who she is, because I'm a strong man of faith, and I had conversations with Sunny as she was going through all these treatments, and where her faith was and where her heart was. And so I'm a firm believer that she's in heaven right now, and she is just as beaming and as glowing and as beautiful as all the contact I had with her on earth. But let me say this, if you want to get a little feeling of who she is, go to the playlist. Go to the playlist on this channel under VIP interviews. And I had the privilege and honor of interviewing Sunny, just as I did a number of other incredible people, including Paula, that brought the news to us, Paula Noel from West Palm Beach, Florida. I had a privilege and an honor to interview both of these beautiful women, beautiful physically and beautiful in their spirits, in their hearts. And if you want to meet either one of these incredible women, with Paula, if I remember correctly, with Paula, it was an audio interview, which is fine over the phone. So you get a chance to hear Paula, you get a chance to get acquainted with Paula that way. But with Sunny, it was a video interview. So you actually see her, in the video under those VIP interviews on the playlist. Take time today or over the weekend, would you please? Take time to go to that playlist and meet these two incredible women. Would you do that, please? Or if it's been a long time since you saw those interviews, go there over the weekend, set aside some private time, and sit down and watch these beautiful women. Paula and Sunny as well, that we just got news that she passed away. Because then you'll realize just how special and how blessed we are, how incredibly blessed we are to have people like this as part of our family, to have people like this that are part of the Cow Country family. And then we think as well about Alex Askarov, who I posted a bunch of stuff about, his grandchildren and everything else. And Alex going through cancer treatment right now. And he's a positive guy, as is Yana, his wife. So, I communicate with them directly. And, they are just rock solid folks, top shelf. And so they're always going to give you the best, most optimistic face of what's going on in their lives. But yeah, I don't take anything for granted. Life is a thin, fine thread. It's like that nasty rayon thread that I despise sewing with because it breaks so easily. That's the thread of life. The thread of life is very thin. It's very fragile. It's very delicate. And we just never know. We never know. And that's why some of you know that I've got a background as a chaplain in the military. There's a scripture reference, without getting too preachy to you. There's a scripture reference that says, don't boast about tomorrow. Don't boast about tomorrow, because we never know. And there's another preacher person that said, live today like it's your last, because one of these days you're going to be right. So all I can say is the thread of life is thin, it's fragile. That's why our coming together in these classrooms, I think people delight in it, coming together and becoming friends with others. And that's what happened to Paula and Sunny through this family, this Cow Country family, through this classroom. They became friends. They eventually got to a point where they exchanged cell numbers and they were in communication with each other all the time. And they became bonded sisters. They became like sisters together. And I can only imagine how hard as a result of that, this is hitting Paula as well. And anyone that developed that very, very intimate, special bond with Sunny. Sunny and I were good friends and we would text each other, but there's different levels of intimacy and different levels of relationships, right? So my heart goes out to Paula as well, as she delivered that news with so much poise and so much grace and so much beauty in honoring Sunny in sharing that news with us. And Paula has been away from us for a little while, and I hope that we can reconnect and that she can become a part of these live streams again. There's an open door there. There's an open door to anyone that steps away for whatever reason. And I hope Paula will choose to do that. She's such a special part of us, as is Sunny a part of us as well. So with that, I'm gonna turn around this Rolls-Royce of Singers and give you a final look of it. And thanks again to all of those that persevered through our technology glitches. On my end, all I see all of a sudden, instead of being able to look over at the laptop and see what I'm doing in front of the camera, the screen goes black. It goes literally black, and then all of a sudden, you can't hear me. There's no video feed. The live stream, for all practical purposes, is still live, but there's nothing happening. There's nothing happening. It's like a dead battery in a car in the winter in Wisconsin. You got a battery in the car, but it's not doing a thing. That's kind of what happens on this end. And then all of a sudden I realize the live stream has gone dead. So before this one goes dead too, if the glitch revisits us, I'll turn around this beautiful machine that Ronnie has privileged us with being able to see from the great state of Nevada. And the next time we'll come together is going to be Tuesday morning, hopefully to spend some time with that really cool Bernina Model 125, never shown on this channel before. And you know what? I don't know how many videos there are out there of this machine at all. Again, it's very, very seldom seen. Very, very seldom seen. So let's turn this around. I'll put this cap back on before I lose it. And Ronnie goes, "What'd you do with my cap? Why am I capless?" We'll turn this around. And again, a special thought and prayer with Craig. Craig and Sonny were the most close partners that I've ever had the privilege to know. They delighted in each other's company. They delighted in their lives together. And you can only imagine how this would be hitting Craig right about now with losing his closest partner, his best friend, his confidant. It's got to be devastating. I can't even imagine. So please keep Craig and the family in thought and prayer as well, as we continue to try to move forward in this thing we call life. And remembering how thin that thread is. So Ronnie, again, I know you're going to see this eventually. Thank you for sending this great machine here. I have no idea what year this machine is. If someone wants to share with us at the next live stream after you look it up, the serial number is A like Apple, J like Juliet, 345887. AJ 345887. Again, call now. There's operators waiting. AJ 345887. So yeah, if someone wants to look it up and just share this at the next live stream on Tuesday, what year Ronnie's machine is. It's possible she told me, but I communicate with so many people all the time. I sometimes lose track. So rather than misstate, if you want to look it up and let us know on Tuesday, that would be awesome. I'll put on a little bit of music to kind of wrap us up with, and then we'll end this live stream before technology ends it for us. Yeah. Let me change my angle a little bit, give you a little bit better view of this Rolls-Royce. This Rolls-Royce of Singers. Yeah. All right. Let's see if I can find my phone now. It's somewhere around here. Emma's at work. Again, she's a pharmacist, but she is a go-getter. She's a go-getter, and Susie was kind enough to type the serial number into the live chat. Emma's at work. She works in a hospital as a pharmacist. She's a busy girl in a very, very important position, but she gets these little windows, these little pockets where she can zero in on what we're doing here. She's already pulled the date up for us. I love it. Oh my gosh. So this is a relatively young machine. Emma's saying it's right around 1950. Right around 1950. So it's a pretty young machine. I consider anything from the 1950s, whether it's a human being or a sewing machine, I consider that young, don't you? From the 1950s, some of you in this live stream were born in the 1950s. You're young. Don't ever call yourself old. I will mail you rotten tomatoes or something like that if you call yourself old. Don't even do that. So if you were born in the 1950s like this machine, you're still young. Matter of fact, I would almost call you a quasi-vintage person, like this is a quasi-vintage sewing machine from the 1950s. Yeah, you're young. This is a fairly young Rolls-Royce of Singers, considering the first one rolled out in 1935. This one had to wait almost, 35, 45, had to wait almost about 15 years to be born. All the other 201s, they're strutting around, and this one is going, when am I going to be born? When am I going to be born? And finally, born in 1950. Pretty cool. All right, I'm looking for music if I have any. I thought I had some. Somewhere around here. Oh, gumdrops. I love and hate technology at the same time, don't you? I love and hate technology. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find anything to put on. Let's see if it's maybe it's this one. Yeah, this is it. I pre-recorded a little bit of music. I was feeling like jazz music. So whenever you need to step away, step away. I'm not going to do a countdown today, unless it's a countdown like this. All right, God bless everybody. Thanks again to all those that circled back after the video feed and audio feed died, past, just stopped on the first one. And it's kind of interesting. I'm going to pause this real quick. It's kind of interesting that the timing of that glitch on the first live stream was immediately with the delivery of the news of Sonny going to heaven, Sonny passing away. God just decided, I'm gonna pull the plug right at this point as this news is being announced to emphasize how the unexpected in life can happen, right? The unexpected in life can happen. And right at the announcement, as that news was being given to us by Paula about Sonny, things stopped. Everything stopped. Yeah, I don't know. I see it as significant.